So the fall of 1909, 3.2 million bricks are put down here. We're the brickyard, right? And this is that yard of bricks that you're chasing when you're a race car driver here. You get a chance to be the first car to cross this 3 times to win the Indianapolis 500. But I want to talk about something that has nothing to do with you except a good friendship. I can't help every time I'm here but think about Dan Weldon, how much he loved this place, but in particular, when he won in 2011, how he came out here, laid down on his back and just took it all in. That guy loved the 500 just about as much as anybody that's ever lived.
Yeah, no, he really did. And you asked me earlier about my passion for the race. And some of it was being his teammate, because he bounced in here in 2003 to do his first 500. And he loved it. He loved it. And I got this, it was infectious. His enthusiasm was infectious. And I think that helped me to understand and to fall in love with this place. And the same with Tony. We were all caught up in Dan's enthusiasm for it. 2011 was an interesting race because it was another race I felt fortunate to be in the hunt to win it. And ultimately Dan and his team, they made the right moves and he came through and he won it.
Dan Weldon is going to win the race!
And it was one of those points. I remember I was sitting down there and I was pretty down. I hadn't won. Yep. And then I thought, no, snap out of it. Your mate's just pulled off something incredible and you should go and congratulate him. And I stopped him down there and I gave him a big hug and told him how proud I was of him. And with everything that happened, I'm glad I was able to do that. But as you see that picture of him lying here, it's just, it's iconic. And
yep.
Yeah, it was, what a story though. What a job he did that month to pull off that win. He had a feeling for this track and a technique and an ability around here that very few have, and you always knew, regardless of the car he was in, you were going to have to contend with Dan at some point.
So 2010, you get a chance to celebrate your second victory, and what's interesting to me looking back on it, you get to be on the right and the left-hand side of Dan's second win. So you guys are in a little bit of a battle. So you become a second-time winner before he does. What did 2010 win in that race mean after 2007 being a range-shortened race?
You know, I'd gone away and I'd attempted to do something in NASCAR that wasn't so successful. So I really felt I had something to prove coming back, and I realised in that off time how much I loved IndyCar racing, how much I loved the Indy 500, and that's what I felt. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. That was what my passion was. So to come back in that period, 9, 10, 11, 12, we were had a car, and we were in contention as a group to win any one of those races, and that's all you can ask for. And then you've got to put the pieces together, and we did it 2 out of those 4 years. But 2010, the car was so fast. It was in a spec series. It was mad. At one point, I think we were half the track ahead of the field, and it was just such a quick car. Yep. Tricky thing to drive. I actually bounced it off the wall on turn 1. I got a little bit loose there, but it was quick. And the yellow came out, and we pitted. Everybody pitted, and we had to make some crazy number of fuel mileage. And I didn't like that. I liked making fuel. It was, part of my Scottish upbringing. I always imagine I'm paying for it myself. So
this is one of those deals where you'd pay $2 million for a gallon or 2.
Mike Conway crashed, and and it ended under yellow. We had just enough fuel. I mean, I think I had half because of the yellow. Right. The last lap, I had half a gallon of fuel left in the thing, but the oil cooler had split on the last on the Mike Conway debris. Yeah, so not only was there not a lot of fuel in it, there was a lot of oil all over the floor. So that was the most dominant car, the 2010 race, and that was one of those. My engineer Chris Simmons, him and I worked just on the smallest details for the whole practice, and we had a car that was quick, and we were able to execute.
So you talk about your year off in 08. But you've been able to do something that not a lot of race car drivers do. Elio Castroneves won 4 Indy 500s, but never won a championship. So you win 4 championships and 3 Indy 500s, all sort of in that 6-year period where you're able to dominate across the board. And you did come back in 09. You win a championship 09, and come back in 10, win the 500 and a championship. I mean, you are on a big time roll at that point. But does it sink in that you're no longer an Indy 500 winner? You're a 2-time Indy 500 winner, which puts you in another stratosphere.
Yeah, it did, because one of the things that I think I'm most fortunate with is that the legends of the sport became my friends. You know, those heroes of ours from the 60s and the 70s, they became my friends.
Right.
And they would say, hey, you know, welcome to the club,
Yep.
but now you're moving up.
Yep.
And they kind of helped me understand what it meant.
Emerson Fittipaldi, Al Jr. I mean, just people that you had to have been watching as you're beginning your racing career.
So Al Jr. said something when he won, and he stood up there and he said, "You don't know what Indy means."
Well, you just don't know what Indy means.
And I remember at the time watching that going, Al, I didn't know Al at the time, I'm like, Al, what are you talking about? What does that even mean? And round about that period, it clicked. I'm like, yeah, Al, I know exactly what you mean. And I told him that. I said, when you said it, you know, and that sums up everything that everybody puts into this race, everything everybody lays on the line to compete here, on the track, drivers, mechanics, engineers, everybody. And to win it the second time was beyond my wildest expectations.
So we'll talk about the third time, and I want to go down to turn one because that's a special point. But as we sort of wrap up this segment, we head down there. This yard of bricks also in 2012 for that third time is a pretty cool moment for you because it's under yellow, but you get to cross the yard of bricks in maybe one of the most unique finishes in the history of the Speedway with two of your buddies right behind you.
Yeah, Scott and Tony. I was going to say riding shotgun, but they were trying to beat me. they were. Let's not mistake anything here. To me, that was special because we were. The 2012 Indy 500 was really a celebration of Dan.
Yep.
And the three of us were great friends of Dan's. And we helped his brothers actually at his funeral. And so that was special. And it didn't matter which one of us won it. But to cross the line with those two guys was special. Making sure they were behind me, that was even more special.
Well, that race, that's one of the things I think people forget about that race because it's more known for an epic battle after a last caution, especially going down to turn one. So let's go down there and talk about turn one. So we're standing here at the entry to turn one, most epic corner in motorsport. It's a challenging corner when you're by yourself qualifying. You can't see around it. It's just like it's a tunnel. But the white flags drop for the Indianapolis 500. There's an epic battle going on, you and Dixon and Sato. You're less than 2.5 miles away from win number 3, but you got a guy whose phrase is, no attack, no chance. You know he's going to do something. What's going through your mind as you're 230 miles an hour getting ready to turn left with Takuma Sato behind you?
Is out. Dario Franchitti takes the defensive line into one. Sato taking a peek.
Inside. Keep going.
In 12, I'd been spun at the first pit stop. And got back going again. The guys did a great job. I was lucky. I had a team of mechanics in the pit stops, a group of people who, the more pressure that was on them, the better they performed. And that's rare, and that is a great group to have. But so they fixed it, and Barry Wanzer, my strategist, said, "Hey, okay, don't worry, lot of the race to go. We'll be okay." And I said something like, "What movie are you watching?" You know. Anyway, I got on with it. And by 30 laps later, I was back in the lead of the race. I knew we had a good car, but I also knew Scott had a good car. And him and I, for that sort of next 100 laps, where we were just playing just drafting each other, kind of trying to stay up front, keep track position. Tony got involved for a minute, and I was quite happy with that because I always knew with Tony we could have the closest race and there'd be no funny business.
Kanana's going to get it. He's in the lead.
Sato got involved and I was a bit more worried about that. Anyway, the 2 laps to go, Sato passes Scott here. He'd been making these passes all day, having watched the race a few years ago. He'd get to about a quarter of the way alongside and cause the car on the outside to have to lift. Scott had to lift, and that was really the end of Scott's championship challenge that day of the 500. And Scott had driven a perfect race. Up until that point, Scott had driven an absolute perfect race that day. Anyway, we come off of turn 4, come into the white flag, and I look in my mirrors and I think, right, good. We're okay, he's far enough back. And at this point, just to give you an idea, the mindset, there's no tension. I learned over the years of doing this race just to relax and let it, whatever happen. I was like, okay, fine. And then I look again, just as we get towards the yard of bricks, and I think, oh, he's going to be he's coming here. And I turned in wide open in the grey, and I'm not lifting. I'm either going to crash or I'm going to come out of this corner first, but I'm not lifting. And he's on the inside, and my spotter, Scott Harner, is up there, and Scott said, okay, inside. And I thought, yeah, I know. So inside, and his voice, Scott's got a pretty deep voice, and his voice was getting more and more higher pitched. Inside, it's, and
inside, keep going.
By this point, I've started to get away from him, because as Scott's getting more higher pitched, I realise, I want to get away from him. And I'm finding grip, and I'm still wide open. So I'm stepping up a bit more, still got grip. I don't really know that he's spinning on the inside at this point. Then I hear this, I feel this bump, because of the pods at the back of the wheels, they connect.
Right.
And the car gets a bit sideways, and I get about 180 degrees of opposite, and got it straight. And then the problem is Dixon's coming. So I'm pulling down gears, trying to shift him. God, come on, and Harner's going, come on. I'm trying, and I've got my foot flat, and I get the engine back into the power band and get to sprint ahead just as the yellow comes out. And then the rest of the lap was, my legs were shaking. I remember crossing the finish line, even under yellow. I've got Tony and Scott there, and my legs were shaking in victory lane, and it was, I wasn't gonna, I might have crashed, but I wasn't going to lift, and I gave Sato the room. He's the one that made the mistake. And then afterwards in the bus lot, I was sitting having a beer with my Scottish buddies who'd been to every one of my wins, and Sato comes up, and I thought he was going to say, well done, good race, whatever, and he said, oh, you should have given me more room. I said, I'm sorry. And we had a bit of a discussion. I taught him some new words, and then invited him to leave because he was ruining my buzz.
It was Al Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi like.
Yeah.
I mean, two guys that are like, I'm winning this race, and you laid it all out there.
Second's okay here, but it kind of sucks. And so that was what it was all about. And before the race, I was talking to Uncle Bobby, and he, these guys, he hadn't driven a racing car in a long time, and he said to me, hey, just be careful. You never know where they're going to come from today. You need eyes in the back of your head. And after the race, I said, how did you know? And he just kind of went.
So we'll fast forward another year. Turn 1 isn't as kind to you, but there's a conspiracy theory out here that the Turn 1 crash at the end of the 2013 race was all planned so that Tony Kanaan could win the Indy 500.
So anyway, there's a yellow, and we come down here, and I turn in, and as soon as I start to put some wheel, and you can feel the wheel loading up normally, the wheel didn't load up, it just slid, and I knew from about the apex that I was going to probably crash. And then as I got closer to the wall, I realised it was going to probably hurt. And it actually did. It was a big old shunt. All the time I drove at the Speedway, I only ever really hit the wall 3 times. That one, the first day I tested here, and leading the 2010 race. It was all exactly the same spot. Right. But yeah, there was no conspiracy. I was delighted that Tony won it, but as I say, I didn't know where he was. Never mind me. So,
I don't know if you knew it at that moment, but at some point in time it has to hit you that it's Dario Franchitti, Dan Weldon, Dario Franchitti, Tony Kanaan, the 3 amigos right together. Today, even looking back on that, how special is that, knowing the bond that the 3 of you had together?
Yeah, if you look, when I look at the Borg Warner Trophy, I had it in the house a couple of years ago. Steve Shunkin, the guys, brought it over to the UK, and to look at that sort of period of time and be on there beside my friends, it means the world to me, especially now with time moving on. My daughter Sophia, she came running through the hall when it was in there, and she's sprinted past, and she sort of skidded to a halt, and she's run back to the trophy, and she's looked down and she went, "Look, Daddy, look!" And I thought, oh, she's going to say, "Look, there's Daddy." She went, "Look, Uncle Scott." What do you mean, Uncle Scott? Well, there's Daddy and Daddy and Daddy, but no, Uncle Scott.
Thanks for spending the time with us. Race fans, one of the most historic, one of the most successful drivers in the history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Long after we're all gone, they will remember Dario Franchitti for those 3 wins, but his 4 championships. He's led 339 laps at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
I didn't know that.
There's only 2 of your contemporaries that have done any more, and it's because they've done it longer, Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan. There was nobody better behind a wheel at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway than Dario Franchitti. Thanks for spending time with us. Thanks for joining us on Behind the Bricks. We'll see you next time, probably in May, when we have cars running to go racing for the 106th running of the Indy 500.